I am a very stereotypical millennial in which I want you to tell me the rules, and in exchange, I will tell you which ones I would like to follow.
I kind of love that.
The rules.
Jill suddenly identifies with millennials again.
Right? Yeah,
like that.
yeah. I'm a geriatric millennial, but I mean.
Hello, and welcome to Think Fresh, a podcast brought to you by De Novo Marketing's Collective Creative, coming to you from our Ideas Institute and here to talk about all things marketing, insights on new trends, innovative ideas, and marketing tools you can use in your day-to-day life, and whatever else we deem relevant. I'm Jen Newman, De Novo CEO, and your host. Today, we're going to talk about small teams and mighty strategies. Ryan's not on the podcast this month. Today, Jill Mast is my co-host, and we are joined by Angie Kendall from Hand in Hand, our very special guest. So Angie and Jill, welcome to Think Fresh.
Thank you for having me.
Glad to be here.
So we always open up the podcast with a little chit chat, and Ryan tries really hard to make this a sports podcast. He's kind of new to sports. He's just trying really hard to like sports.
So he's like sportsing.
He's sports adjacent. Sports adjacent. That's a great way to put it. But I do have to ask, like, were you guys tuned into the World Cup at all?
I was in and out. My kids had some interest, and I like any opportunity to have a social event. So that is, I love sports in that there is food,
Parties.
camaraderie, and drinks.
Right.
And sanctioned yelling. So I think those are like really a recipe for a good night. So I did. The last game I was only in and out of because I was dropping my kids off, but I saw some sort of halftime situation.
Oh, the halftime show was interesting.
I would also describe it as interesting.
Yeah. Okay. So besides, I do want to talk about Madonna here because, I mean, she looks younger than when she first arrived on the scene, I think, on MTV.
Earth.
Yeah,
Yes.
on Earth. And I was like, wow, that's some really talented plastic surgery or whatever that took. But like I said to my husband, I'm like, how many performers do they have and huge names? Whereas, you know, typically for the Super Bowl, you have one.
Right.
And it's a big deal. They had Madonna, BTS, Justin Bieber, which actually made me cry for some reason. And now I'm forgetting who. Oh, Shakira was the other one.
I saw that one.
And some rapper that I had to look up because I'd never heard of him. It was star-studded.
Yes.
But the World Cup audience is in the billions globally, whereas I don't remember what it is for the Super Bowl. It's in the millions, let's just say.
It's like
a
300
way
million,
bigger
I think.
audience. But yet there was no like Super Bowl level advertising that happened.
Right.
And I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
I think it's because the Super Bowl is one shot. It's either there or not. And the World Cup has games for weeks
Yeah.
in multiple countries and all of that. So that's my take.
They
I
could be
think
running
that
the same big ad
could.
on multiple.
I mean, it was
but
a couple
it
hundred
almost needs
thousand.
to have an international audience
Yeah,
to do it.
They do.
Although I don't know, I feel like the United States woke up to soccer or football and was like, hey, those men are beautiful.
This is true.
At least I did. So.
A lot of really cool human interest stories also came out.
Yeah.
And it also felt like there was a real attempt at messaging around unity and connection. Or maybe that is just like me desiring that I noted it, but it
think
felt
a lot
like
of
there was
people
a
felt that. And I also think that the United States just showed up well for our international audience and our international visitors, and they love our ranch dressing.
My favorite was Scotland, the Scottish people in Boston.
They drank all the beer.
And the pictures and the video that came out of that, I absolutely loved the Scottish people in Boston. That was my favorite thing about the World Cup, I think, is just watching them come in all the kilts. And it was, I mean, that's kind of my jam anyway, but that was what I know. That was one of my
This is a
favorites.
throwback to Outlander.
This is another
again.
podcast.
Okay. Jill's affection for the show Outlander.
I do love
Or
it.
a
I
character
did.
in Outlander. So, wow, we're thirsty today. Okay. So I thought that was kind of, I didn't look at it so much from a sports perspective as I did. This is just a really interesting way for the world to come together. And I feel like people are kind of craving it in a way.
Oh, for sure.
So,
Yeah, I agree.
Today, we want to talk a little bit about, as the title would imply, these small teams but mighty strategies. And so, Angie, why don't you tell us a little bit about Hand in Hand, and then we'll get right into it.
Sure. Well, Hand in Hand began in 2000. Two parents said, hey, our children with disabilities, man, wouldn't it be great if they had a place to belong? And so in 2000, we did a 1-week summer camp, and our founder said, I wasn't sure if anyone would show up. And there was a line outside the door at the Y to sign up. So they thought, we're really onto something. And we've expanded since then. We've just continued to respond to parent and community need. We have night and weekend recreation programs, inclusive childcare, 6 weeks to 16 years, after school teen programs, adult day programs, and job coaching and development. We just last week wrapped up our 27th year of summer camp, so we're still continuing that.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
Thank you. It is an honor and also extraordinarily terrifying to carry on the legacy of these families. That's what we do. And I also say I get paid to make really stupid business decisions. The care industry has almost no or literally negative margins anyway, especially in childcare. And so we're already in a difficult industry, but every program we operate was created because parents say, hey, we have a need. We've identified a gap. Will you help us fill it? And we've said yes. The gap only exists because there is no payer source for it, right? Or the risk is too high to do it. And we've continued to say yes. And that requires us then to fundraise about a third of our budget. And how I ended up coming to this team anyway, as we got to work with you professionally, is saying, how do we continue to fundraise and differentiate ourselves and tell our incredible story so that we can continue fundraising to meet the needs of those we serve?
Right. Well, we're so glad you do it. It is such a need. And, we're based in Cedar Rapids here. You're based out of the Quad Cities. Mm-hmm. We have a really sort of a similar organization here, the ARC, which shout out to them. They do amazing work.
Oh, and Tress is an incredible leader. She is
great.
Lovely.
She's so great. And they have such a good team. This type of work tends to be really regionalized, doesn't it? Because you have to be where the people are. This isn't something you can administer from California.
Right. Right, yeah. Absolutely. You need to be in your community to understand the unique needs of your community. And those are, I talked to Teresa here, I talked to individuals in Iowa City, Muscatine, Dubuque, and we all are the same and entirely different as well on our needs and what our community is asking for.
Yeah. One thing that is amazing about your team too is they are just so talented. There's a number of nonprofits that we work with or any types of clients where their internal teams maybe don't have quite the level of the skill set that your team has. So that was one of the things when our team got to work with your team that we really enjoyed, is it felt like we got to bring our strengths and your team got to bring their strengths, and it was just kind of a really symbiotic relationship. And where you didn't want to spend money and invest was the tactical things that your team already had covered. You looked to us to have a little bit more of those higher level strategic decisions and creative ideas and push further than where you were before. And that's one of the things that I loved from your team and when we got to work together as well. How do you balance when you're talking about like day-to-day alignment with vision looking forward? When you look at the goals and the vision and then the day-to-day, how do you work to balance those? When you're thinking planning and strategy, what's your approach?
I think that's a really excellent question, and I'm just stopping, so my long-winded answer is medium-winded.
Sounds good. Don't worry, that's what editing's for. So Amy's making a note. She's like, yep, cut that part.
I mean, because I hesitate to give an answer that sounds like it's from a business book, but it's true. You have to have a target, right? We all have to sit together and say, what are we working towards? You're rowing the same direction, and we have to have goals, and everyone has to know, what is your role on this bus? And we use the same analogies that every business uses. Are the right people on the bus? Are they in the right seats? And if you're in the right seat, you know your business. So the individual who writes grants knows her business and knows what her goals are. We actually also recently published a success guide that we're using with our staff in onboarding that explains each staff member's role to achieve our overall organizational impact. So it's on a pyramid, actually, which starts with, here is what our vision is as an organization, and then we talk about roles, responsibilities, impact. Each person writes an individual impact statement and how that feeds to the outcome of the stories that we get to tell. So I think it's really knowing what are you doing here and why are you doing it? And so coming back to mission.
Connecting to mission's huge. So when you rolled these out, do you do a quarterly check-in, monthly check-in? Are they just responsible for them on their own?
It becomes their supervisor's responsibility to use that language in day-to-day coaching and interactions, as well as to use it at annual reviews. So that is like the formal touch point. I think having shared language is essential. And so creating that language, introducing that vocabulary at the beginning, and then using it day to day helps us to set that culture and understanding.
You talked about the roles and responsibilities of individuals. You also talked about the opportunity to make bad business decisions all the time, right? As a nonprofit, like you're doing things that, no normal business would do it because there's not a path to profitability there. So when you think about strategies that you employ, and knowing that you're not trying to make a profit, but you also can't be negative. You can't lose money. You have to be able to fundraise and have revenue sources that allow you to continue those programs. How do you use strategy to prioritize around that?
I guess I'm going back to shared language because I'm thinking the exercise we most recently did in strategic planning is we were assessing our programs. And it is easy to go to the bottom line of a programs, right? We're a nonprofit. I have a friend years ago that said, I don't like to call it a nonprofit. I like calling it a not-for-profit. But we can make a profit, right? That's just a small nuance in words that reminds us that I'm not going to personally benefit from the profits our mission is. So we said, how do we assess our programs? And so we came up with not this huge formal formula, but we said, one, is the new program or the current program mission aligned? If it's not, then we have no business doing it. Two, is it unique to the Quad Cities? Are there other people already doing it and filling that need? Because then why would we fill it too? Three, is it budget neutral or positive? And so that is a programmatic decision, but we all came together and said, what is the filter we're going to use to say yes or no? I am a very stereotypical millennial in which I want you to tell me the rules, and in exchange, I will tell you which ones I would like to follow.
I kind of love that.
The rules.
Jill suddenly identifies with millennials again.
I know, right?
Right? Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I'm a geriatric millennial, but I'm going to keep making myself
would-
younger. But I think that similar framework works. You all have to sit at the table and say, what is it that we're doing and how are we going to share? What filter are we using to do this, to make decisions together? So that can also be said on expansion, business decisions, infrastructure, marketing, messaging is what are we trying to do here? And by working with your team, we get your expertise on like, Angie, that's really great, but you just try to do 27 different things with one message. So could we choose maybe 2 things? That is where I need somebody else at the table.
Yeah, because it's always tempting to put 10 pounds in that 5-pound bucket, right?
Absolutely.
Like,
Yes.
Especially when budgets are tight.
Right.
So although you're a very successful nonprofit, that doesn't mean unlimited budget by any means. So, we always say whether it's a social media post or a video, it's distill it down to the singular message and stay on topic so that we're not falling into that trap of, but we can only make this one video, so just put it all in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Right.
always tempting.
Well, you're in it every day, so it's nice to have a partner that's not necessarily in it on a day-to-day basis, like to the level that you
Right,
are. So
right.
we can say, that's all great, but this is what really resonates. This is
Right.
what sticks out to somebody that doesn't walk in the door every single day. And I like that part of it because you can gut check us then and say, but this is what's important too. But I think that's the nice part about having that kind of a partnership.
Sure, absolutely.
Before we started, I was talking about, when a board member or a donor or a volunteer or just your average person in the community, a parent comes to you and says, you should do this, right? So we call it, you're getting should on. You should do this.
Yeah.
How do you use your mission and vision to determine whether you should jump on that, we'll call it opportunity that's presented to you?
Most of the opportunities that get presented are in fundraising.
Yeah.
Just maybe a golf outing, a little gala.
Easy-
just a little
easy peasy,
something.
no big deal.
Yeah,
Yep,
no
easy
problem. So years ago, when our one person who helped with fundraising and myself sat down, we created a year-long fundraising plan. And the plan helps execute on our end, especially as our team has more capacity now to do exactly what we say we're going to do. The most useful thing that plan is a reason to say no. Because then I'm going to say, Jill, that is such a good idea. Let me put it on the list to be considered next year because we already got our plan together this year. And so when you have a roadmap, it just gives you all the reasons to say no, because that roadmap was already put together with our stakeholders. We already thought about it. We already decided against that, but we can put it in the parking lot for another day. And that has been incredibly helpful. The same for a strategic plan. I like living documents. So at our last accreditation, they asked us for a strategic plan. And I had probably 16 different documents. And they were like, but what's your strategic plan? Well, that's every time we updated it, right? It is I don't need a document that is going to stay forever and ever and never be opened. We, at least 2 or 3 times a year, would update that plan. Not to veer off course, but there are outside pressures that may change priorities or may open up a new road to get somewhere, where we say, we knew this was our destination. We just decided to take a different path.
Especially in this environment.
Oh, for sure.
Funding streams change overnight. It's something that you could once count on might be gone. Something new might pop up that you're eligible for. So I've always been a big believer that a strategic plan should be a living document that gets looked at regularly, gets measured against, and isn't just, now I'm dating myself in some way, shape, or form, but printed and put in a binder and then put on the shelf. I don't think anybody still prints them and puts them in binders anymore, but
not if they're actually executing them.
Right.
That's absolutely right. You love opportunity, you love ideas, you love innovation. So having that type of a personality and a strategic plan, how do you make the decision on what's worth your time and what's not? How do you decide when to veer from the plan? I
think you have to build a team that you trust, internally and externally, whether those are board members or I have 3 individuals. One is a founder, 2 are emeritus board members who have long retired, who I ask for business advice. I send our strategic plan. I say, tear this apart. So you need external people. And you also have to know yourself. My team knows that I'm an external processor. And so they had to learn also, that wasn't a directive from Angie, that was just an idea. And to build enough trust to challenge me. And we often say, is the juice worth the squeeze in the office? Mm-hmm. And that is often that's a nice idea, Angie. And the same for everyone else, right? Or we'll say, let's put it on the calendar and think about that next year. We're too far down the path right now this year.
You're very similar. You're a very similar person.
I always say I'm a talk to think rather than think to talk. And it's definitely an adjustment for people when they come on our team because I am like, there's an idea. I always say 99 bad ideas a day, maybe one good one if I'm lucky. But that doesn't mean that we're going to do any of those, honestly. Right. Sometimes a bad idea can lead to a good idea. Right. And I don't have to have the good idea.
Right. So, but I want to just get it out, like word vomit it out. I also have a huge action bias. And so that is self-discipline for me because I'm immediately like, well, I'm going to solve this problem or I'm going to take action. And that can be a challenge, but my team also has to learn to be like, but do you have to do that? Mm-hmm. Or I have to say, should I be the one doing this?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I feel that. I really do. So.
But if we didn't have those people and those leaders driving with ideas and just lots of them, I mean, we wouldn't move forward at all. So yeah. I think that's huge. Does your team react to that well? Do they know that you're a processor that way and they feel like they can push back and they can say, maybe not that, but this?
Yes. Yeah. I also think it takes a while, though, to build that trust with the team, right? I'm a challenger. I've mentioned that before. I want to be challenged. And so it can be scary for some people who are more internal to learn to challenge. So then in return, if I have an internal processor and I have a lot of individuals who are introverts, I have to learn, I'm going to walk away and come back to this tomorrow. They're going to come up with a better idea. They just need some time to do it. Mm-hmm. My husband's the same way, so I got to practice that at home. Where I'm like, do you have any ideas? He's like, I just need some time.
I'm like, why are you so slow? I'm
right,
like,
right. I'm like, come on.
We could have this done already if you would just get off the couch, right?
I've already ordered the supplies, asked for some estimates, and he's like, I didn't even agree to the plan.
I'm like, what? This all sounds really familiar to me, Angie. So.
I feel like I'm sitting in the middle of very kindred spirits here.
Yeah, Jill is often my litmus test of, she'll be like, I'm like, oh yeah, it was a bad idea.
Is the juice
wasn't it?
worth the squeeze? That's going to be my new question to Jen, I think. But yeah. But I mean, with your personality like that, a lot of ideas, does that mean you're a little bit more of a risk taker when it comes to messaging, marketing, new ideas, fundraising?
Absolutely. I think that I would not consider myself a risk taker in the for-profit industry. The nonprofit industry is often drowning in a scarcity mindset.
Yes.
And so when we came to you, and I was in Des Moines, I remember when I spoke to you the first time, but prior to that, I had gone to our board and said, and things were looking rocky ahead. We weren't sure what was going to be happening with any funding programs, especially tied to Medicaid, and we do a lot of Medicaid disability payments. And I saw, boy, is it going to get noisier than ever. It's noisy anyway, right? How are you the brand that is seen ahead of everybody else, or how are people aware of you? But it's going to get very noisy with people who are very scared. How do I get ahead of that? And so that's when I went to the board. I said, we have never invested in professional marketing. We need help in this area, and I want to go down the road before we are one of 1,000 people saying me, me, me. And pitch to the board, here's what I want to do. I know it's out of budget. I know we're going to run a loss for a couple of years, but it will pay off. We need to build a stronger foundation. And that was seen as risky by a lot of my colleagues who were like, really? You're going to spend money on marketing? That's where you're going to spend it now? And what we spent money on is telling our story, on ensuring people understood what we did, on building visibility and a foundation. And so for many, that would have been really risky. To me, it was a natural business move.
Well, how have you been able to measure that?
That's really hard, right?
Yeah.
So then I called Jill and I'm like, could you give me some numbers?
Yeah.
That's actually...
Can you pull some numbers now and tell us how it actually worked?
Right. We do have those numbers. There's also, the Quad Cities is a small community, and you begin to get invited to things. Your brand people start saying things to you about it. Your reach is further. Ultimately, we're raising more money, and also our programs are more full. We have tripled in size since 2020. We opened a new program last September, and we had 8 to 12 individuals, and by this September we'll be up to 20. So we've doubled that program size, right? So that is all part of that messaging. We've also become more efficient in the story that we tell. We understand, what do people want to hear? What do they need to hear? And how are our audiences different? Am I talking to a legislator? Am I talking to a donor? Am I talking to a community member? That helps us tell the right story the first time.
Yep.
When you guys,
messaging matrix.
and you have so many stories. You serve so many people, and they all have amazing stories. And having a little bit of discernment in there to pick out the ones that might resonate with each audience and be able to tell those, like you said, a little more efficiently, maybe a little more emotionally. And then also, I don't think we should ignore that we did just a little teeny brand glow up last year,
Yes.
visual brand glow up, to get us into to 2026 and beyond. And I think the focus on storytelling and how we tell those stories and the little brand glow up plus some placement, and then your team is so highly visible. All of those things together really worked well. They all supported each other and just got you a lot of inroads that did help with fundraising, a little more brand awareness. So I think that all of those things together, but the storytelling piece is just critical, especially in a nonprofit like yours, where it is just human-centered and just beautiful humans. They're so wonderful. You have such heartwarming stories, and you do such good work that, that's the way that you're going to win. That's the way that you're going to grow, the impact that you make.
Sure. Well, thank you for saying that. I love hearing the stories. I love being close to the work. I shared when I got here, we had 2 weeks of camp. I was out there 3 times. It's always funny when I show up in t-shirt, shorts, and a hat, and staff don't know who I am.
So
and
great.
we're just in it. And I get to hear those stories firsthand. But
Some of the best stories, I came from Girl Scouts before I became a part of De Novo, and my favorite stories come from camp to this day. My own favorite stories from Girl Scouts come from camp.
Right.
So.
You're there, and we had several, happened to be moms this year. We had 4 kids who had never been to camp, and moms who were overcome emotionally, crying every day, saying, They've never had this opportunity. And one mom said, we just moved here 9 months ago and we've been disinvited from a lot of things. This is the first time he's been able to stay. And what does that mean when you are part of that?
Yeah.
But I think I'm lucky I got to go to program a few times. I'm distance from programs now, which is a challenge of losing, I think people are afraid to lose connection. I think it's really about losing control. And so that can be frightening to build bigger and move farther away so that you can expand. But I also hear organizations who struggle getting those stories. And I think it has to be a culture of stories. So you have to hear stories to understand how stories are important. You have to ask your staff, but also it's not up to that teacher or that direct support professional to have worked all day and then come back and be like, Jill, I have a great story for you, right? It's up to those of us who get the opportunity to amplify the story to find them. And you don't have to have that moment where that mom was crying. That's incredibly meaningful. We've talked about this a lot in our shop, and I walk through program to leave my office every day. And I saw kids building with boxes. And they were building homes for their stuffed animals, and they were building airplanes. And we have children who are nonverbal. We have children with significant motor challenges, and we have typically developing, we have this huge diversity. And I thought, this is beautiful. This is childhood. There's so much joy and imagination. And that wasn't one big moment. That was me walking through and paying attention. And I think that's sometimes what we miss. But then you have to teach people. So then I typed that up in a Teams message. I said, guys, on my way out, do you know what I saw today? And that is how our development team learned how to tell stories. You just pay attention and start naming what you see. And then I called a donor and I said, I just left work and I want to share my joy with you because you make this possible. And eventually that story about using boxes became our entire year-end appeal. And there was no staff member who told me the story. I just simply observed it on my way out. So I think those are things that sometimes in nonprofits we forget. We don't make it so hard. Yeah. Your work is in action every day, and you learn storytelling as part of your mission. I called it gratitude and mission, just storytelling like and being grateful for the impact you get to make.
Yeah, almost every nonprofit or not-for-profit really has that content-rich environment that they can pull from. It's just whether you're understanding what those stories are and you're seeing them and you're thinking, how does this play into something that resonates with a donor, something that resonates with community members? Jill was talking about sort of all these things that make it the right environment for your marketing and your fundraising to be successful together. Those things don't exist if you don't have the ability to see it and communicate with your, in this case, external marketing team that can help you tell that story. But you also have the staff members who share it and who can speak to it. And you have the donors who want to run with it, or your board members want to, promote it. Hiring an external marketing team or an internal marketing team will only get you so far unless you have this collective, we need to do this together. And we'll take all these different pieces and we'll put them together.
Sure.
I do think that you've got some special sauce there at hand in hand on that.
I think it's all, it's by design though. As you say that, I was thinking one of the cautions I sometimes we talk about as once a month, a lot of nonprofit leaders go out for drinks. It's a real surprise. And we talk about, well, could you outsource that? But you have to be clear about what you're asking for when you outsource, right? So when we're outsourcing marketing and messaging, we're asking for a partner. And I think too often when you have a small team and you're trying to execute something big, the thought is you'll just buy something. I'll buy a consultant. Well, how's that consultant going to get the information? If your team is not ready to build a pipeline to feed them and create some trust, you're not going to get what you're asking for. Right. Now, sometimes I outsource things because I don't want to touch it. Like the printer. The printer. Yes. I don't want to touch a printer. I do not care about extensions and drivers. I don't care about any of that. I don't want to touch it. But in this particular instance, you have to know that it did not take the work away. It made your work better.
I love the partner, talking about having a partner, because I think when we first started working together, we did have a couple of little like hiccups where, we had to have trust in each other and honesty about what our expectations were. We hadn't, like I mentioned earlier, your team is so capable that sometimes our team comes in and we do everything from start to finish. And you didn't need us or want us to do that. That's not where you wanted your investment to go. So having that level of trust, the communication lines wide open, and a level of honesty, and where we could just say, that's not what I want from you. I want this from you, this level of thinking. I want, so as our relationship has evolved and our teams have gotten really comfortable with each other, we can just have those conversations. And it's nice because we can say, what if we provide this and you guys take it and execute the rest? And they're, it's perfect. And the expectation is there. The responsibility is there. We know who owns what. And I think that makes it so much more effective and efficient use of your investment.
I agree. And I think if nonprofit leaders think of it like building a coalition in any other way, nonprofit businesses are so good at collaborating and working together. I have been part of building so many coalitions. If we think of that same intentionality of relationship building as we do with outsourcing parts of our business, like they're not different parts, right? Like whether you're building a coalition or a partnership to solve community issues, or you're building a partnership to tell the story of your impact, the same intentionality has to go into it.
Yeah. When it comes to messaging and marketing, it's not just telling the story of these really wonderful people that we help. We're telling the story of how it also benefits the community. Because if you're looking at funding cuts and you need to reach legislators, if you're looking at building coalitions with other nonprofits, if you're looking at expanding your space, if you're looking at donations and corporate partners, how do you work to tell that story about, employment, workforce development, people being able to have a place where their children can go so that mom and dad can go work? How do you tell those stories?
You just did.
Or how do you work that into your strategy, I guess?
You have to talk to the audience you want, right? So when I talk to city leadership who no longer has young children and does not have grandchildren yet, that has never been in their mind, right? So I have to serve it to them on a platter and say, do you understand that childcare is an economic engine and is workforce development? And so we cannot assume that people know those things. You have to be very, very straightforward with it, and tell it succinctly, right? So I think it's knowing your audience and knowing that information about what do you do.
A really good example of that is work with we work with the Iowa Women's Foundation, and some of this has been in volunteer capacity over the years too, but when we first started talking about childcare and the importance of childcare, we were thinking about it very specifically from the mother's perspective, right? The family's perspective. But we were going to legislators and business owners with these flyers that have lots of little kids on them, lots of smiling, very cute little
Adorable.
kids. Adorable. They didn't give a crap. Not because they're heartless people, but because their job is to keep their businesses going or to create laws that help businesses prosper in Iowa, and changing that and reframing it for them into a workforce issue and taking away the pictures of cute little kids and putting, workers on those was a really significant step in how they were able to begin to shift the narrative toward childcare as it's not a mom and kid issue. It is all of our issues because it affects our state's economy.
Right.
And that is what began to change it. So reframing it into something that your audience understands is really important. And you have that in multiple different ways, right? Because what you do can impact workforce. What you do can impact education. What you do can impact just a family's health, right? And ability to thrive. So you are working with multiple audiences, and we call it messaging matrix in our language here at De Novo, but it really is. It's like picking that that approach that you know is going to resonate. And some of that's probably right in your head. It's like, I'm talking to this donor and they are a CEO. I'm talking to this donor and she is super active in this group or this audience over here, and I need her to understand it. You almost have to pick that out of your head on the fly, right? And talk about it.
You have to be nuanced in understanding who you're talking to and what they want to walk away with. One of the things in small teams that I think is important is protecting yourself from chaos. And it's true of probably any business, right? But in small teams in particular, the issues of chaos that come to you are like programmatic, literally a toilet just, flooded in the over the ceiling. This law is going through federally. This, you just never know, right? And protecting yourself to be able to make decisions. And so it is well known that on my team, when something chaotic comes up, as long as everyone's okay, my response is usually to laugh. And that can be offensive, but it's actually a physiological reminder, like everything's figure outable. This seems big in this moment, but in a week, I'm going to think this is hilarious. So I'm just going to laugh now.
Let's just get it out of the way.
Right. It's just, you cannot make this stuff up, right? And then I say, all right, give me the facts. Let's start with the facts, one by one, and let's manage by facts. Too often, what we think is chaos is our interpretation of what's going on and not the facts, right? And so I look at facts help us solve, emotions help us care. And so when I'm telling stories, that's the thing. I need to hook you with emotions. I need you to understand this, but facts are what's going to solve this problem. And the fact is there is a problem because there's a shortage of childcare, which immediately impacts the shortage of workforce. And so I think when you operate with that mindset of I care about you or I care about what we're doing and I can be very emotive about it, but I have to have the facts to navigate this. It's important.
Yeah. One thing too, as Jen was talking about different messages and different audiences, we did the It's Ours campaign this last year. And so we hit, we have all of the audiences. It could be donors, it could be parents, it could be, people who are just stakeholders in other ways. It could be workers. We hit all of these different elements of the issue, and we provided a sense of ownership for everyone when they were looking at hand in hand. And so the overarching message is really simple and it's very universal. It's very ownership based. And then we broke it down into vignettes that were specific to each of those audiences. So you could use them if you were presenting to a donor group or to a company or to a corporation. We could target them differently in advertising. So, when we talk about having a message that's overarching and then breaking it down into those different audiences and touching on their pain points or their different needs, I think that was a really good example of that too.
And it was the way that we were able to utilize your team, right? Like you have the expertise creating this overarching vision and the vignettes and helping us narrow in on them. And now we can execute on day-to-day things using that same framework, that, the same ideas, and it just helps us maximize our dollars and our impact.
When you came to your board and you said, we've never invested in professional marketing assistants, and I'm sure you got pushback, what were the things that helped them understand why you were coming to them with that specific need and that approach?
I think it was the real examples of the challenges we'd already seen coming and the conversation about what was next. And I think people, they want to help. They want to make a difference. They want to do the right thing, but they don't know what to do. So being able to go to this obvious group of people who are well invested in what we're doing and say, I'm telling you it's scary. I'm telling you that I don't know. I'm telling you that everyone's saying, what's your contingency plan if funds get cut? And I say, I cannot have 27 contingency plans. My plan is to do the next right thing every day. I'm offering you one point of control. And one thing we can control is trying to develop a stronger foundation and get ahead of this before it gets too noisy. And I think people were open to that, saying, okay, this is a solution. At that time, they said, it's a potential solution. It may not work. And I was very honest as well, saying, this may not work. If it doesn't, it's a significant amount of money in a year's time. It's not over the lifespan of the organization. If it does work, the outcome is incredible. And so I think it's also storytelling then as well. So a little bit of fact, a little bit of emotion.
You have a lot of stakeholders. You have a board, you have donors, you have families, you have employees, you have us, you have other partners, that everybody plays a role in hand-in-hand success. How do they take some of the load off your small team internally?
I think you have to be explicit in what you're asking for. right? I mean, they're going to take a load naturally if they're paid to do it or not. But especially volunteers, you're saying, I need you to do this. This is what I need you to help with. Because you did this, this is what the difference it's going to make. And then, you've said before the relationship we've been able to develop with your team, and to say, we don't hire de novo to just outsource work. We hired them to make our work better.
And because we're pretty.
And also gorgeous.
Super fun.
Super fun. And being very clear about that and knowing what you need from people.
That makes a lot of sense. So we run into this with nonprofits, and we do work with a significant number of nonprofits, but they often have to be a nonprofit of a certain size, right? Which is unfortunate. If I just had my way, I think we would, just do free marketing for all of you, right? But we're not even a not-for-profit. So we run into this where it's competing needs sometimes, and I do think it's really forward thinking when a CEO or the person that comes to us thinks about the fact that they're looking for that strategic partner. Not necessarily, execution can be very important. Mm-hmm. Execution, at least on the creative and production side of it, that might not be something your team can do, but thinking really about what do we need done? What stories do we need to tell? And then investing in that aspect of it can be really powerful. But I think that's a hard one for nonprofit leaders to sell to their board.
You have a small team. That's what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they have to be Swiss Army knives. Right. They have to wear lots of hats. That's not unique to Hand in Hand. That's every nonprofit and lots of for-profit businesses. So how do you keep them engaged and energized? How do they avoid burnout? What do you do with your team?
Well, I think you have to like that kind of work, right? You have to be willing to switch gears. And there's people who would prefer not to do that, and that's okay. In a small business, for-profit or not, you have to be willing to be in program or fixing something or whatever it is. And I think you need to be wary of it. Is the right person doing the right work at the right time? Are we utilizing our resources well? And I had a team member, as I think about Swiss Army knives, and for many years it was just myself and one other person doing all fundraising, volunteers, events, and grant writing and marketing and messaging. And she said, nope, I think that was it.
Oh, okay.
And she said, Angie, I've applied somewhere else. And I said, tell me more about that. And she said, I'm tired of going an inch deep and a mile wide. I said, I get it. I get it. And she has very specific skills, or very solid skills, in grant writing, in messaging. She didn't love the other aspects of her job. And she felt like she could never dig into the things she was really good at, which provides value and fills her bucket. I said, well, I get that. I'll make it. And she needed more money, which was totally fair. And I said, okay, how long do I have? And she was gracious. And I said, could you give me 5 months? I need 5 months to figure this out. I'll give you the raise now. And I need you to write your dream job description. Tell me exactly what you would want to do. And then let's look at what's left and create a new job description. So that was another time where I had to go to the board and say, okay, here's what I have. So we wrote a new job description for her. She is still with us 4 years later. We wrote another job description for a new team member. We have more than doubled the amount that we've raised. We've leveled up in so many different areas. And I think sometimes people would say, well, how are you ever going to replace this team member? Because that's fair. Her skill set is incredibly unique. Not a lot of people would cross over. But I haven't had to worry about that in 4 years. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. I don't stay pigeonholed because that's what the job description told you, or that's what the Facebook group of nonprofit executives said is best practice. That doesn't mean you get to cherry pick only your favorite parts of your job, because I would just do things like this every day. To lean into the strengths in your small team and say, how can we make sure that you spend 90% of your time doing that? We have a newer team member who has experience in video editing and doing a lot of cool stuff like that. Her job doesn't have a lot of that in it day to day, but we make sure to give her some. Mm-hmm. What opportunities can we give her that still allows her to exercise that? Yeah. So I think that's important, and that can seem scary. And like I said, the risk could be people would say, Angie, you just created a job you could never backfill. That's true. I don't know how long she's going to be with us, though.
Figure that out when you get there.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think businesses can take a page out of that playbook. It's in working genius parlay, that is helping people do the work that gives them energy, that lights them up, and they are going to be better producers and teammates as a result of leaning into that. Whereas if you have them in something that drains them constantly, then ultimately, I mean, that's one of the best ways to burn people out. But the way to really burn people out is to just kind of have them coasting along without really playing into what they're capable of doing. They're competent. They can do it. Like you said, she could go an inch deep and a mile wide, and she could do that for a while. But ultimately, she's a person who likes to dive deeper and solve things and be able to figure it out. So you have to, if you want to keep that individual, you have to find ways to play into that.
I think for a lot of people, it becomes like a moral affront as well. Like, I don't feel safe morally because I know I'm not doing my best work. People want to do good work. And she was saying, I can do better work in these areas if you give me more time. And it feels uncomfortable for me to keep giving you work that is beneath my potential because I'm so distracted.
That's a great point. Like I said, I think a lot of businesses could learn from that approach too. So, but a lot of small businesses do that too. At the same time, it's small businesses are so much more nimble than the bigger ones, right? We're like, well, that doesn't fit your job description. I think you should find another job.
Or let's change the job description. That's I mean, how do you align what they want to do, what their passions are, with what the business needs? Like you said, write me your job description. Having the ability to do that. And I mean, I think that's part of you being innovative. Okay, if this doesn't work, but we need you, how do we make that work for us? And I think it's paid off.
It has. She's still on the team. She's an exceptional team member, and she's
Producing
doing great.
too.
Yeah.
Happy and producing. Love that.
Yeah.
So if she's listening to this,
Right
now. So for Creative Brief, which is something we usually do where we like dive into a campaign or a commercial, sometimes it's like, oh my God, can you believe what this did kind of thing, and sometimes we'll put it up on the screen. We're not doing creative briefs today, but I kind of wanted to do a version of something I've heard on another podcast where they call it unpaid advertisement. So think about something in your life that you're just like, man, if everybody knew about this, their lives would be so much better. Mine is not actually all that useful to other people, but I, because I'm apparently 90 years old, am obsessed with rain levels. So my unpaid advertisement is for an app called Raindrop, where I am constant. Now, we do partially own a farm, so we care very much about moisture.
I appreciate your justification.
Yes, but it really is a lot more.
She's a bit of a nerd.
I don't know what it is. It's a scarcity mindset about what it really is. Like, I'm very worried about drought. I don't know why. So my unpaid advertisement is for Raindrop, which there's a free version of that app, and it will tell you about. And I've tested it with a physical rain gauge. It's pretty accurate. But that's my unpaid advertisement. What's one thing in your life that you're like, God, if everybody knew about this, they'd love it as much as I do?
Also an app, AnyList.
AnyList.
Which is free, but now we've graduated to paid. You can have shared lists. So we have a shared grocery list and a shared Target list, and it's on my son's iPad, my husband's phone, mine. And so anytime you're home and you run out of something, you just throw it on the grocery list. And whoever's at the store then knows everything you need.
Okay.
When you upgrade to paid, you can also have your recipes in there. You just have the file extension. It puts it right into AnyList and all your food. And then you can put it on your weekly meal calendar and touch the ingredients that goes to your grocery list.
Dang.
It is.
That's way better than.
It's like $14 a year.
Oh, that's cheap.
It's incredible. That is like my life hack that saves so many runs to the store. And also, like, if you're going to complain that I didn't get to the store, you didn't put it on the list. Own your responsibilities.
Can you say that louder for my children, please?
There's your outtake. All right, Jill, do you have an unpaid advertisement?
So I'm really, really late to this game, but my kids did the Hydro Flasks and the Stanleys and the Circles and the Awalas. So we have 1 million Awala water bottles. I saw you walked in with one. And last week we were at the store, and there was one sitting on the shelf, and it wasn't even a color I would normally like pick, but it said $5. And I'm like, you know what? I have this really cheap plastic water bottle that's like no brand, melted in the dishwasher, partially leaks. And I was like, I'm going to get myself a water bottle. So I bought this Awala, which was actually $30 when I got to the checkout. Oh, that's a whole nother story. But I bought it. And I've used it this weekend for the first time, and I am a convert, and I love it.
is your-
Owala is the new water bottle, and I understand why there's 7 other ones sitting on my counter for my kids, but I have my own, and they can't touch it. And do you love yours? You walk
I
yours
do. I
and-
love
yeah.
it. And I was volunteering at the John Deere Classics, super hot. It was terribly hot. Every morning I would fill it with ice, tiny bit of water. I'd leave it in my car. There's still ice at the end of the day. I could have cold water the whole way home. It's great.
The cap snaps down, and then my 11-year-old was like, and then you push the handle down, Mom, and that locks it so you can't accidentally spill it in your purse. I'm like, okay, I'm on this.
I think your life
that's
hack
my-
is actually just following along with the trends, Jill.
a year later.
Yes.
maybe more.
I need that for coffee though, because twice now I have dumped an entire. I carry this big bag, and my life is in it, and it's big enough that I can fit one of my like thermal coffee mugs in it. And I'm like a chain smoker when it comes to coffee. It's like, oh, there's this much left. I better fill it up again. I fill it way to the top. I get in the car, and multiple times it has dumped over in the bottom of my leather bag.
I laugh because I feel this. Also love black coffee. I cannot, like when I make coffee runs for my team, I'm like, you have to write out what you want to order because I don't know how to say the things. I don't know how to order that. I know how to order.
Triple venti something.
Right. Half
yeah.
pump. No. Give me black coffee. That's it. Light ice because I'd like to drink it right away because I have an immediate gratification problem.
Jen also will get in her car with an open coffee mug, so don't let her trick you too much.
Oh, right,
You have
yeah,
gotten in the car, like literally no lid, and she just sets it down. I'm like, oh, that's a really bad idea.
So I just replaced my car, and one of the options for the seats, and I would have gotten the car earlier had I ordered this because it was more common, is they're white car, well, not white, but like cream colored car seats. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, I spill coffee every day of my life. I should only wear brown clothing because I spill so much coffee. I'm like,
we are identical people.
so
They are identical people.
I bought a cream sweater last year at our little merch store,
so
and
dangerous.
my entire team was like, "That's adorable. Why?" And I did get coffee on it first.
yeah. So. All right. So I need like the Owala version of a coffee.
They probably
mug is what
have
I-
one,
They
is my
probably
guess.
do. I'm
Or
going to be
New
spending
product expansion. That's what they need to be.
There we
looking
go.
into.
If you're listening, Owala, which I'm sure you are,
sure you are.
our tens of
Obviously.
listeners, that we have, tens of listeners. I'm sure that Owala's product development team is
Getting on
avidly
it.
listening
Yes.
to this and thinking, let's save her life.
Yes.
I'd buy one.
Yeah,
I'd buy one,
absolutely.
at
All
least
right,
today.
you heard it here first. So that's our unpaid advertisement section.
love
It's
it.
a new on-the-fly section that we created just for this podcast with you, Angie.
Oh,
So-
that's great. I feel so special.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. It was great to have you on the podcast. I hope it was fun.
This is so fun. Thank you for having me. Thank you for working with our team.
Thank you.
I
It's
cannot.
fantastic.
And I do tell everybody. I'm like one of those people that I love connections and telling really good stories. And I might complain about a business, but I wouldn't pass that on unless it was harmful to another business. But if it's a great business, I'm like, tell everybody. So I'm telling people about you
unpaid
all the
advertisement.
time.
Thank you.
Because you did not come to us and say, this is what we do. Do you want to buy it? You said, what do you need? And those are completely different things, and is why we're successful in our partnership. And I can't wait to see what the next year is going to bring.
Yes.
And
Us too. We
cool things
love-
already happening, and it's exciting. So thank you for having me.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Thanks
Thanks
for
for
being
coming
here.
all the way
Yes.
up here. It's so much more fun
In the middle of
in
the
person
thunderstorm.
than it is like staring at this screen.
It's so you gotta feel energy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just awkward.
This is great.
Yeah.
We'll have to have
Thank
you
you.
back. Thank you.
I will come back.
All right.
Yes, we'll
All
hold
right.
you to that.
Okay.
Thanks, Angie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Are we swearing on this or no?